Imagine this. A secret list, hidden for years, containing the names of some of the most powerful people in the world. Politicians, billionaires, even royalty. A list connected to a man whose crimes shocked the globe, Jeffrey Epstein. Now, survivors are stepping forward saying they know those names, and if the government won't release them, they will. This isn't just a scandal. It's a battle between justice and power, between the people who demand truth and the system that wants silence. Welcome back to the channel, your home for global and geopolitical news, without the filters or agendas. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most explosive stories of the year. The survivors of Jeffrey Epstein taking matters into their own hands, threatening to release their own list of names linked to Epstein's world, and what that means for power, politics, and justice in America and beyond. Let's start with what just happened. In early September 2025, a group of Epstein survivors held a powerful press conference on Capitol Hill. Standing in front of cameras, surrounded by bipartisan lawmakers, Democrats and Republicans together, they made a stunning declaration: they're done waiting. After years of legal battles, sealed documents, and government silence, they plan to compile and release their own list of powerful figures they say were part of Epstein's network. One survivor, Marina Lacerda, spoke about how she was just 14 when she was lured into Epstein's circle under the false promise of massage work. Her voice didn't shake as she told her story. She said she was tired of secrecy and that the world deserves to know who was involved. Another survivor, Lisa Phillips, was even more direct. She said, quote, "We know the names. Many of us were abused by them. And now, together as survivors, we will compile the names we all know who were regularly in the Epstein world." This moment changed everything. For years, survivors had been pleading for transparency, but now, they're taking control of the narrative themselves. They claim to know who those regulars were, who visited Epstein's homes, flew on his planes, attended his parties, and looked the other way while abuse happened. Meanwhile, government agencies, the FBI and the Department of Justice, have maintained a very different story. In July 2025, the DOJ announced that they found no credible evidence of a so-called Epstein client list. They said there's no proof of a formal ledger, no documentation of clients who paid for underage victims, and no evidence of a blackmail network. Officials insisted that while Epstein's crimes were horrific, speculation about an elite list was overblown. But critics, including survivors and lawmakers, say that response doesn't add up. If there's no list, why are so many files still sealed? Why are documents redacted? Why, after years of investigations, do we still not know the full extent of Epstein's connections? Earlier this year, Congress received another release of Epstein-related documents, tens of thousands of pages. But when journalists and survivors' attorneys looked through them, they found that most of the content had already been public for years. There were no shocking new revelations, no big names, no accountability. Just more paper, more redactions, and more frustration. That's why the survivors' press conference hit such a nerve. It wasn't just about justice, it was about power. They accused the system of covering up the truth to protect elites, people with influence, money, and political reach. And that's where this story crosses into the world of politics. Because the push for the truth about Epstein's files isn't just a survivors' movement, it's now a political issue. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, Republican Thomas Massie and Democrat Ro Khanna, have co-sponsored what they call the Epstein Files Transparency Act, a bill that would require the government to release all Epstein-related documents, with necessary redactions to protect victims. They argue that the only way to restore trust in the system is to shine light on what's been hidden. But so far, the Justice Department hasn't budged. Officials continue to cite privacy, security, and ongoing investigations as reasons for withholding information. Survivors and their supporters say those excuses are running out of time, and that public trust is already broken. Former President Donald Trump, who once said he supported transparency around the Epstein files, has also been pulled into the discussion. During a live press conference in September, survivors publicly challenged Trump, saying, quote, "This is not a hoax. We want you to meet with us." Their message was clear. No matter who you are, no matter what side you're on, if you're in power, you should stand for transparency. Across the Atlantic, the story has had global ripples. In the UK, the British ambassador to the US, Peter Mandelson, was fired after new information tied him to Epstein's social network. It's a reminder that this isn't just an American scandal. It's a worldwide web of influence and power, stretching from New York to London to private islands in the Caribbean. And this is where things get even darker. For years, Epstein was surrounded by the most powerful people in the world: businessmen, scientists, politicians, royals. He donated to campaigns, funded research, and hosted lavish events that blurred the lines between philanthropy and manipulation. Even after his first conviction in 2008, he continued to operate in elite circles. So when survivors say they know the names, it hits differently. It's not just about who committed crimes, it's about who enabled them, who protected them, and who stayed silent. The survivors' threat to release their own list raises huge questions. If they do it, what happens next? One possibility is that their move could force the DOJ to act, to finally release remaining files, with proper redactions for victim privacy. Another is that the survivors' list might become its own independent source of truth, a people-powered version of justice outside official channels. But that also carries risks. Without official verification, misinformation could spread. That's exactly what some in government warn about, that survivor-led leaks could ignite conspiracy theories or defamation battles. Still, the survivors say they're ready. Because from their perspective, the alternative, silence, is worse. And when you look beyond the headlines, this story isn't just about Jeffrey Epstein or his victims. It's about how societies handle corruption and abuse when power is involved. It's about what happens when the same people who make the rules are accused of breaking them, and then investigating themselves. It's about whether justice still means the same thing for the rich and powerful as it does for everyone else. The Epstein files have become a symbol of secrecy, privilege, and the limits of the system. Survivors have waited more than a decade for accountability. Many say they're not just fighting for themselves anymore, they're fighting for every victim who was silenced, every case that was buried, and every person who believes that justice should be equal. So where does this story go next? If the survivors follow through and release their list, it could reignite one of the biggest scandals of the 21st century, dragging back into the spotlight names and networks that would rather stay hidden. It could trigger lawsuits, investigations, maybe even arrests. Or it could be dismissed by authorities, sparking even deeper public distrust. Either way, one thing is certain: this fight isn't over. The Epstein case has always been about more than one man's crimes. It's about a system that allowed those crimes to happen unchecked for decades. It's about the blurred line between power and accountability. And now, with survivors ready to break that silence themselves, the truth may finally come out, whether the system wants it to or not. So here's the question for you. Do you think the Epstein client list really exists? And if it does, should survivors be the ones to reveal it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more real-world analysis on the stories the mainstream often avoids. Because this is where power meets truth, and the truth is coming.